Explore the beautiful and turbulent life of Babe Paley, the ultimate style icon and socialite. Born Barbara Cushing in 1915, she married CBS creator William S. Paley and became a high society icon. Her beautiful exterior hid a complicated inner existence of alienation and pain. Babe's increasingly poor ties with her children and husband led to their surprise absence at her burial. Explore her life from fashion glory to the heartbreaking events that shaped her legacy as we reveal the hidden tale of a lady who lived in the limelight but faced her biggest problems in the shadows. The fabulous Cushing sisters. On July 5, 1915, Barbara was born to prominent brain surgeon Harvey Cushing and socialite Catherine Cushing. Barbara was the pack's smallest and most beloved, adding to their already growing family of 5. As such, she was lovingly called Baby, a moniker she carried with her for the remainder of her life. 3 of the 5 kids, namely the daughters, became well-known individuals. The Astors and the Roosevelts were extraordinarily wealthy families that Minnie and Betty married into, and since Babe quickly grew to match their beauty, they were dubbed the fabulous Cushing sisters. But regrettably, Babe's life wasn't always that amazing. She was the belle of the ball. Babe's 1934 coming-out ball revealed to the world that she was the most attractive and the youngest member of the Amazing 3. Babe made her debut at 18, as was appropriate for a girl of her standing, and she quickly became the talk of the town. It was a chance for everyone to see her beauty. One person even said, "No matter how often I see her, it feels like the first time." However, a tragedy was about to jeopardize her wonderful features completely. What doesn't kill you makes you more beautiful. Just as Babe was being revered as the newest beauty in town, tragedy struck and she found herself in a horrific car accident. It happened in Long Island in 1934 when she traveled home from a society party with her boyfriend. And whilst she survived the crash, her teeth didn't. The blow knocked her front 2 teeth clean out and left the lower half of her face covered in bruises that she was forced to hide with a chiffon handkerchief. As a result, she had to undergo serious dental surgery, but to everyone's surprise, it ended up making her even more beautiful than before. And now, armed with a new smile, she knew exactly who to use it on. It was a beautiful match made in heaven. In addition to her exceptional beauty and social connections, Babe was also incredibly stylish. In 1935, she moved to New York to be near her sisters and immediately entered the fashion industry. In just 4 years, she was appointed editor of Vogue. But her career wasn't taking off at this point. Around the same time, she met the equally gorgeous Stanley Grafton Mortimer Jr., a waspy aristocrat. Naturally, the two fell in love, and a year later they were married in East Hampton on September 21, 1940. Although their union seemed idyllic, it was anything but. There were cracks in their marriage. This high society couple looked like the ideal couple, so when they had 2 kids, Tony and Amanda, everyone assumed they would also make the ideal family. But that wasn't how things ended up. Babe was more concerned with maintaining her social status than being a good mother. Ultimately, things became so bad that her daughter Amanda called their relationship virtually non-existent and even acknowledged that it was Babe's choice for it to be that way. Stanley also had his issues. In 1943, he left to serve in the Navy and returned so angry that he became addicted to alcohol, which quickly became a major issue in their marriage. She had a high-profile affair. It seems this was not enough for Babe, who decided to give the rumors even more to talk about and, while the divorce was still pending, struck up an affair with the CBS mogul William Paley. Bill was not the way to go if she hoped for an easier life. After 6 years, in 1946, Babe filed for divorce. Considering the time this happened and the couple's position, it's unsurprising that it caused a huge scandal. Her new husband was not a nice man. From the beginning, Bill and Babe were doomed to be together. Not only was Babe going through a public divorce at the time of their relationship, But Bill had recently ended a public marriage and had recently separated from one of the most powerful women of the day, Dorothy Hart Hearst, who called him as cold as ice. But Babe's friends also had negative things to say about him. One even compared him to one of the cats of the jungle, prowling around in search of money. Sadly, Babe disregarded their advice. She had a loveless marriage. Babe married Bill in July 1947, just 4 days after his divorce was finalized, despite her admission that his moods would terrify her. At the time, Bill was 45 and Babe was 32, and despite being incredibly glamorous and a full 13 years his junior, she immediately became his trophy wife. However, it was obvious that they were using each other. Bill had been shunned throughout his career due to his Jewish faith, and having a high society wife was exactly what he needed to legitimize his empire. Meanwhile, despite getting a cool $40,000 in her divorce settlement, Babe was looking for a man who could maintain the opulent lifestyle she had grown accustomed to. She mixed in high circles. The Paleys were the golden couple and at the top of everyone's wish list for parties. Therefore, they would only accept invitations from the very best. Babe even insisted on receiving an official letter before she would entertain attending. This allowed them to socialize with some of the most famous people of the day, including writer Truman Capote, who they first met when a friend asked if they could bring Truman on vacation, and they thought that meant President Harry Truman. Despite this hilarious miscommunication, their friendship lasted a lifetime. She was one of Truman Capote's swans. He has since admitted that he was madly in love with her, so it's not surprising that it wasn't long before she found herself to be his firm favorite and, as a result, one of the top socialites in all of New York. But she had competition. Capote is best known today for his infamous novel Breakfast at Tiffany's. At the time, however, he was receiving more of a reputation for his lifestyle, which involved having a glamorous inner circle with him at all times, which he referred to as the Swans. She had some glamorous frenemies. Being the best means there will always be competition. For Babe, that meant Gloria Guinness, her rival swan. To put Gloria in her place, Babe would frequently remind people of her lowly beginnings as a nightclub worker in Mexico, and in return, Gloria would go out of her way to show Babe up. One of Gloria's cruelest pranks was inviting Babe to spend a casual weekend away on her yacht, meaning that she wouldn't have to dress up, only to appear in her finest and make her look horrible. However, Babe had more serious issues than Gloria. She was forced to be the perfect hostess. Babe's husband Bill insisted that she be the ultimate hostess, so she developed the habit of always carrying a gold notebook to dinner parties where she would jot down any mishaps and ensure nothing happened again. She also had very high standards, asking her staff to go above and beyond to ensure invitations were as elegant as possible, like hand-cutting the edges of her stamps. Consequently, Babe became known as the ultimate hostess, going above and beyond to ensure each guest had everything they could need, with one even commenting, "You could hardly get into the bedroom for the flowers." Nevertheless, Babe's husband, Bill, wasn't satisfied. She was scared of her husband. Babe became terrified of Bill's strict expectations and soon became nervous. One day, on their way back from Europe, she became so terrified that she called her sister in a state of blind panic, pleading with her to run over and get it out of the house. "I don't care what you do with it, just get it out of his sight." But Bill's control extended beyond the house. He also controlled how she looked. For instance, he wanted her to look perfect, but didn't want to wait for her to do it. She once admitted that he didn't want her doing her hair at night. Sadly, he didn't want to do much else with her during the night. Her husband played away. It seems that Bill would go out of his way to find aspiring stars in dive bars while he was away on his many faux business trips, and they all looked the same, which was nothing like Babe. While Bill wanted his wife to be the perfect socialite, he wanted his mistresses, yes, that's plural, to be the opposite. In fact, for a whole decade, the two had no intimate relations at all because Bill lost interest. She was forced to stay with her husband. Babe is desperate to get rid of him and thinks about divorcing Bill, but her friend Capote reminds her, "You don't have any money, and you've got 4 children. Think of them. Bill bought you." So, accepting that she would always be in his company, Babe chose to play the game and have her affairs, surrounding herself with a banker, an American ambassador, and a posse of platonic laughing men. As her daughter Amanda once disclosed, she never criticized Bill. They continued to be the ideal pair in the eyes of the public. She was a fashion icon. Babe maintained her fashionable appearance the whole time, despite how miserable she was. Her collection of gems, which were so costly that she had to store them in a bank vault, assisted with this. Additionally, she would purchase designer collections from labels like Givenchy and Valentino and own them alone. She thus began to establish trends, sometimes completely unintentionally. For instance, she took her scarf off her neck and fastened it to her handbag because she felt overheated. The next day, it became the newest fashion, and sometimes individuals still wear scarves attached to their handbags due to her. She aged so fashionably that people copied her. Indeed, she was a trendsetter even in her later years. Babe accepted her aging appearance despite her fear that her domineering husband, Bill, would approve of it. When her hair grew gray, she let her distinctive brunette locks become silver instead of coloring it. Her silvery locks were a whole phenomenon as it happened. She was such a celebrity that she started a trend that other socialites quickly followed. Unfortunately, however, she was still insecure. She was a heavy smoker. Because of Bill's infidelity, she continued to be very worried about her appearance, even though she was establishing trends as she grew older. And as her daughter Amanda grew up and gained incredible beauty, this situation worsened. Babe grew quite envious as a consequence, which made their already awful relationship worse. So she began using coping strategies to get through it. These included seeing a therapist and, regrettably, starting a strong smoking habit. Unfortunately, however, this sent her down a very dark road. She suffered with her health. Babe had always struggled with her health, having suffered from excruciating headaches as a kid due to a disease. She would be confined to a dark room for days on end and resort to powerful tranquilizers to relieve the agony, which happened around twice a year. However, things took a serious turn for the worse in 1974 when her smoking habit caught up with her. A year before her 60th birthday, she received a lung cancer diagnosis. She had chemotherapy, but being a babe, she could appear stylish in turbans. However, she was unable to foresee what would occur next. Her best friend revealed her biggest secret. Babe was going through one of the worst periods of her life, fighting illness, when her best friend, Truman Capote, chose to utterly betray her by publishing an extract from his next book, Esquire. In 1965, a discussion between two characters, whom it was obvious to everybody was supposed to be him and Babe, was chronicled in Côte Basque. And during those talks, the lady opened up completely about her troubled marriage and her husband's infidelity. Babe's long-kept secrets were revealed, and it was instantly clear to everyone who these characters were intended to be. Babe was incensed and never talked to Capote again, even though some people still maintain that he wrote the article to protect his best friend from her awful husband. She finally dropped the feist. Babe fiercely defended her husband and their marriage, but as she became worse, her determination grew weaker, and she started to abandon the pretense that their marriage was great. One instance of this was when she supposedly said, "What's the old SOB doing today?" when she phoned CBS to check on her husband. Another instance of this occurred when, according to a friend, she finally abandoned the polite facade and unleashed a barrage of obscenities on her spouse. She also protested, claiming that she had fulfilled his request for her too many times since she knew she was dying. That didn't mean he was done torturing her. However, she didn't have anything to lose. Her husband had one final betrayal up his sleeve. As it happens, Bill Paley continues to play abroad and is closer to home than before, even after his wife passed away. Thus, on Babe's deathbed, Bill attended their granddaughter's school performance and made the acquaintance of Joan, who was 20 years old and would later become his new mistress. He continued to do so even after she passed away. It is said that ladies at her burial eyed him up, and the photographer overheard them declare, "I'm going to marry him." She even passed away in a style. Babe lived to reach 63 years old, but on July 6th, only one day later, she passed away from her disease. However, being a true beauty, she did it in style and even seemed to do a complete makeup application on her deathbed. She took responsibility for the circumstances. Being the daughter of a doctor, she was quite realistic about what lay ahead. She even planned her burial and included a list of all her valuables in her will. Nonetheless, some individuals weren't delighted to be there. She never reconciled with her children. Babe had 4 children in all. Her first 2 children were Tony and Amanda. Although she was very envious of Amanda's attractiveness, her spouse Bill was more jealous of Tony since he was the only kid she had a strong attachment to. After that, she and Bill had 2 more children, Billy and Kate. Sadly, Kate endured the worst, and Billy banished himself from the family. When she was only 5 years old, she had alopecia and lost all of her hair. She thus became resentful of her family and was teased by the picky group of people that her parents forced her to associate with. She reportedly refused to visit her mother when she was ill and waited until her very final moment to say farewell, since their relationship was so awful.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon